You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
It's time for the Geeks Pub. I'm Tim Robertson, joined by David Cohen. Hello, David.
Hello.
Hello.
I sound a bit tense.
Yeah, well, I've seen pictures.
I have an impending water disaster over my head at the moment, so if you suddenly hear a crash, that means the ceiling above me has collapsed onto my head.
And he's not joking. I saw pictures. If every now and then you hear something that sounds like a sploosh sound, it's water hitting David in the head. Ugh. That's so you've got a leaky pipe, you got it fixed, but they didn't fix it because it's obviously somewhere else.
No, they made it worse, actually, because the marks we had before were nothing like what we have now. So, they made it worse, and it's the weekend, so no help till Monday.
Oh, what a nightmare. You going to stay home from work that day? And
no, I've got to go to London tomorrow, and I'm not back till Thursday night.
Oh,
so
that's great. Yeah, so then your wife's got to deal with it.
That's right, and then on Friday I'm here for the day, and then I'm flying to France to visit my brother for the weekend, so basically I'm just not here next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, for better or worse, remember those vows, babe? This is the bad time right here.
Yeah. Well,
it's not breaking your back bad, but
well, it is breaking my back bad because I'm going to break my back moving because all my stuff is around here because this is where my desk is. So I already cleared the desk. I mentioned that the other week. So I've got all the stuff from my desk piled up in boxes in one room, but now all the other stuff that's around here, like shelves and things like that, all needs to go as well because they're going to need to pull the ceiling down.
Yep.
So I've got to do all of that this afternoon as well. So that will break my back.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's do this show so you can get to work on the house. This is our round 2 of our comic book movies bracket competition. We went through the entire first bracket, and now we're on the second, so we've got 4 today, which will lead to 2 and then to 1. But before we get to all that, we've got some cool stuff happening in the world, some stuff we want to talk about. First thing is, it looks like Battlestar Galactica is getting a reboot. Again. I don't know.
So, well, we all went, the last time they rebooted it.
It was
and
fantastic.
It actually turned out to be fantastic and far better than the original series, which if you ever go back and watch it now is pretty schlocky,
well,
to be honest.
It always was. It was 70s camp, but it was only 2 seasons, so.
It was 2 seasons. It was Glenn Larson, the guy who did $6 Million Man and Knight Rider, and it was kind of that sort of show, an awful lot of repeated special effects shots, and
it was bad, but the idea behind the show was actually
the
quite
idea
clever.
was excellent. Yeah. And actually, I first came across Battlestar Galactica by reading the novelization of because this is back in the late 70s, early 80s. It took ages for American TV shows to make it to our screens, so I actually read the book, the novel, the TV novel, and
I got to imagine that was a lot better.
It was fantastic. It also had a lot of concept artwork because they hadn't made the show at the time. At the time they put the pictures into the book, and the concept artwork ended up looking a lot like what eventually came up in the renewed series. It was much cooler, much pointier and sharper, and it really made it look kind of cool. And the book was fantastic, and because it really brought over the incredible idea of the story. The TV show, not so much.
You know, I will say this, though, with the last rebooted series, anyways, you know, they took the ideas, the look, kind of, if you will, and sharpened them up and made them a little bit more modern, and it worked. But it's really hard to come up with a better Battlestar Galactica. I still like the first one better from the original series. I think it's a better looking ship than the rebooted one.
Yeah, so in some respects it's hard to rate the special effects of the original one because, as I say,
forget about the special effects. I'm talking about the models themselves.
I'm talking about them. Yeah, but even with that, the models and everything, they made about 5 or 6 shots for each one, and then they just reuse them over and over again. I do know what you mean. The actual ship itself, the Battlestar in in the renewed series wasn't quite as cool as the original one. But then that's because they went in a different direction. They went, this is an old Battlestar that has been retired and was never really meant for real service. For having done a lot of service, was never really meant to be the modern one. And so it deliberately has like a retro look and a kind of beat up look to it, and all of that sort of thing. And also as well, I think with the renewed series, they tried to make it, apart from the fact that it was fighting robots in space, they tried to make it a bit more realistic.
Yep.
So, the ships flew like ships would fly in space. They had Newtonian physics rather than flying like planes. And all of the Colonials' weapons were kind of extensions of the sort of weapons we have. They used shells and bullets and nuclear bombs and that sort of thing. There was no laser beams and stuff like that. And so the whole idea of the renewed one was to try and make it feel a lot more gritty and realistic, which it did, and that very much fit the aesthetic of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I'm worried, to be honest with you, because you've now got the kind of the original 70s sci-fi fantasy version, and now you've got a gritty reboot, which was very well received. It kind of lost its way towards the end, but it was still extremely well received. To me, when I read that, they're rebooting Battlestar Galactica, it's like, well, what else can you do? You've gone from one end of the scale to the other. What you're likely to end up with is something in the middle that's not very good.
I'm a little worried about that myself. I think it would be great if they started the series on Earth, 100,000 years ago, when obviously they kind of left the Earth because of, I don't know, whatever the reason is, I don't remember now, the colonies, if you will.
Yeah.
And then they're coming back to Earth. And they expect Earth to be what it was thousands of years ago.
You're talking about Galactica 1980 now, which was the failed.
Well, but because they did a terrible job of it. But the idea of them finally reaching Earth, and it's not at all what they expect, and they have to leave to lead the Cylons away because Earth is no match for the Cylons. I like the idea of that. They just did a terrible job of it.
Just no flying motorbikes.
Yeah.
That's all I remember about that third show, is that it had flying motorbikes in it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, thumbs up or thumbs down on a reboot?
Well, you know what? Here's my position on this. Is that's been rebooted already. Rebooting it again, even 20 years later, seems like a lost opportunity. Go out and write something new.
Yeah.
Do something
you got
new.
writers. Yeah.
Yeah, come up with some new ideas, or if you want to set something in that universe, do it, but don't just reboot the show. Actually, do something different in that universe. Let's do the first Cylon War. Let's, something different.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I love the look of the original Cylons more than the rebooted ones.
Yeah,
those are just great, and I got a kick out of every single time I watched the A-Team, and it showed Dirk Benedict, who played the original Starbucks, pointing at a Cylon walking by at a theme park.
So I've mentioned to you that we've been watching the $6 Million Man on TV here. It's on every weeknight. Well, they've finished it finally, and now they've moved on to Knight Rider. So we started watching Knight Rider. And I looked up some stuff about Knight Rider, and as I just mentioned, it was done by the same producer who did the $6 Million Man and the Battlestar Galactica. And, Knight Rider had that red light on the front.
Yeah.
The reason it had that is because he'd had that on the Cylons, and he loved it, and he thought it was really cool, and so he says, I want a roving red light on the front of the car. And so they did it. There was no other reason than that. It wasn't meant to mean anything. It was just because he wanted to make his black car a bit more like the Cylon.
I agree with the decision.
Yeah.
It worked on both.
Absolutely. In fact, I think every single piece of electronics from now on, starting with the Apple Vision Pro,
should have
an option where you can have just like a red dot moving back.
But it's got to make that sound. Whoa, whoa.
Of
whoa,
course,
whoa.
Yeah. It's not the same without the sound.
No, the sound effects is what brings it home. I didn't even know this was getting done until I saw the news literally about an hour ago, and I put it in the show notes. But I had no idea this was happening. I didn't know who was starring in it. And I don't know how to feel about it. Oh, wait. Well, let's go back. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Battlestar Galactica Reboot? I'm going thumbs down.
I'm going thumbs down at the moment. I don't think it needs to be done.
Tron 3 begins filming. The director sent a picture out, and it's just the chair, and it has Tron 3 on it, but the 3 is incorporated into the word Tron. It's very clever. And it's all red, because, traditionally Tron's been blue. That was the color.
Yeah.
Now it's all red, and it's starring Jared Leto, which he's a better actor than most people think he is. He gets a lot of crap
he chooses
because of
some
Joker.
terrible projects.
He does. Morbius, which I still haven't seen because I just don't care.
You haven't seen it? Funnily enough, Leanne watched Morbius on Disney Plus last week, and she actually thought it was quite good. She quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But
it's on Disney?
I think it was on. If it wasn't on Disney, it was on Netflix. It was.
Yeah, it's got to be Netflix because that's a decent.
Maybe.
No, well, it could be a Marvel then.
No, it's a Sony Spider-Verse without the Spider-Man.
So
show,
it's probably
isn't
on.
it?
it's on.
Probably on Netflix.
No, it's probably. Well, it's on.
Probably,
one. Who
maybe.
cares?
Who knows?
Yeah, it's 5 seconds. You'll find out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're not releasing anything about it, which I think is probably a good idea. Do we need a Tron reboot? And it doesn't sound like it's a reboot. It's Tron 3, so it's a continuation, but it doesn't have any of the original actors. My guess is they're going in a whole new direction, but they're not flushing away everything that came before.
Problem with Tron is that it's always been a triumph of production design over ideas.
Yes.
Yeah, the production
over story.
The idea of depicting programs inside a computer as an actual world, and the programs are kind of independent beings, is really, really cool. And the way they showed it in 1982 with that kind of rotoscoped glittering effect that they had on the characters was really cool. And the light cycles are really cool. And having programs throw discs at each other is really cool. All of that is really cool, but the problem is the story they hang on that is often not very good. I remember when Tron Legacy, was it Tron Legacy?
Yeah.
The second Tron movie was on the way. I sat my young family down at the time, and I said, we're going to watch the original Tron. So we're ready for this, and it's really cool, and I loved it when I was a kid and all of this sort of thing. And after 20 minutes, they made me turn it off.
Yeah, it was bad.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I went to see the movie, and it was very much more of the same. It was like, the production design was updated, and it was really cool.
Well, the big thing was they de-aged, what's his face?
Jeff Bridges.
And it was kind of the first big movie that they used. It wasn't a deep fake, it was de-aging. They should have used a deep fake, to be honest. But it was bad. It was plasticky, it was Uncanny Valley. It really didn't work. It just didn't.
And not only that, they kind of, for all the criticism I just made of the original Tron story, but they kind of undermined all of the original story with the new story. Yeah, and so all of it doesn't really make sense, because actually they feel they have to stuff in everything that was in the original movie. So you had to have a bad corporation driven by a bad guy who's in league with a bad computer, who's corrupted a program.
I barely remember it.
Yeah, but these are the core plot points, and then the hero gets zapped into the computer world, and he's the only one who really knows what's going on, but he doesn't understand the computer world, so he has to have somebody take him through the computer world, and they have a big fight at the end, and he wins. Yeah, right. That is the plot.
So, do you think
in the second one they also had the Avatar was Olivia Wilde in a rubber skin suit, and she ended up in the real world as well. Whoopie-doo. Yeah. Actually, the best Tron story I've ever seen was the video game. They did a first-person shooter called Tron 2.0, and that was really good. And the story was really good in that as well.
I think the best I've seen was The Matrix, but yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I don't get the feeling that this is something that people are calling out for, and. We'll see.
I kind of hope they go in a totally different direction with the series.
I think that's what a lot of these supposed reboots have to do, is actually say, okay, we accept what's happened before, but this is something completely new. We don't need to have callbacks or cameos or
just go in a different direction.
Just go in a different direction in the same universe. And
so all you have to do is really look at kind of what the book, not the movie, what made the book of Ready Player One so great, and just kind of lean into that type of vibe. I think that would make Tron way better. Yeah,
except, what does the world of Tron look like in 2024?
It looks like a regular world, unless you're...
maybe, but the thing is the whole point about the original Tron is it all happened inside one big computer. Right. Because that's all they had in the early 80s.
Yes.
We don't have that anymore.
No.
Now everybody has a computer that size in their pocket, and they're all connected to all the others.
I don't want to see the same bad guy claw things and the glowing bikes and stuff. If they lean into that shit again, it's so okay.
But
thumbs up or thumbs down.
They will, because this is a nostalgia play.
Yeah,
it's thumbs down. It's because it's another nostalgia play. It's designed to appeal to people like us who love the original, rather than coming up with something new.
I agree with you. Thumbs down. So we're 0 for 2 for you so far, Hollywood. The other thing is, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't realize they just finished filming it. New Disney Plus series has officially concluded filming, and that's Ironhart. The character was so bad in the Black Panther movie.
The whole movie was bad. It was pointless her being there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, because she made some vibranium detection, which was completely... It made no sense at all.
Wakanda is presumably the most expert place on the planet for vibranium. So sure, they needed some kid from the US to do it for them.
Yes.
Right?
Nobody in Wakanda could figure out how to detect it, really? Some MIT student that's kind of a thief and does other people's homework and shit.
This is part of the problem with the MCU now, is that they want to bring in these new characters by blending them into existing properties. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time it really didn't.
No. And I don't think the character deserved its own series. Now, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I hope it's great. I really do. But I really don't think it's going to be. I mean, the character's
Marvel
boring.
Doesn't have a great the Marvel doesn't have a great record.
Well, it's Iron Man light, and when we've got War Machine out there, and that's coming out as a movie that I'm interested in. But the character
even with that, the problem with War Machine is that War Machine can't develop his own stuff. He's stuck in a suit that somebody else made for him, and the warranty's expired.
Yeah,
and the company that made it, the main guy died. Yeah, so he's basically stuck in a. Now you see, that would be an interesting movie if they're really struggling to keep the War Machine suit going because they don't understand the technology, and it's like it's an antique compared to new stuff and all of that. That all of a sudden I've come up with a plot I like.
Well, it might have something to do with that.
It won't be that. I bet you it won't.
No.
It will be the usual, some terrorist organization has got something and he's going to go and do it, and he'll probably get disowned by the government at some point during the movie, and he'll still win the day. Yeah. That will be...
You just said the plot there. You're probably
exactly.
right. So thumbs up or thumbs down Iron Fist, or Iron Fist, Ironheart.
Well, let's bring back Iron Fist. I enjoyed that show.
I know it's hard to say because
you know
right
nothing about it. Yeah, my thumb is horizontal, but it's.
I want to see a trailer. I want to see
quivering downwards.
I want to get a sense of what it's going to be about, because I'll say right in the middle right now. I'm neither up or down.
Put it this way: confidence is low given Marvel's recent track record.
Now, that being said, did you watch Echo?
I did watch Echo.
So here's the thing about Echo is a lot of people are panning it like it's really bad and stuff, but man, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I really did.
I thought it was fantastic up until the final episode. I felt the final episode...
It rushed.
And then apparently it was cut down. Originally it was going to be longer, and there was a lot of reshoots, and the final episode kind of reeked of that.
Yep.
It looked like somebody decided they didn't like the final couple of episodes, and so they gave them a reshoot budget, and that only allowed them to do one, and that's what they did. And I thought the final episode was terrible. I didn't like the message. I didn't like the sudden introduction of massive glowy powers, which is a real Marvel trope at this point that they need to move away from.
Yeah, I agree.
All of a sudden people gets magic glowy powers. Yeah, I don't think it was necessary for the character, or to have it as they'd had it all the way through. Which is, by the way, spoilers for Echo.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that.
Yeah, spoilers.
But all the way through, they'd had this concept that her heritage meant that in times of need, the ancestors would help her. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep.
But it by the final episode, it turned into I can just do this whenever I want, and I can give it to anybody else whenever I want, and it sucked. And it really kind of ruined that final. Well, the whole final episode I thought was hugely disappointing.
I was hoping they were going to go in a direction that it's Disney, so I knew they weren't going to. That at the end, she is the bad guy. She does beat Kingpin. She becomes the new King. I don't know what the female version of Kingpin.
Queenpin, they called it.
Okay.
Queenpin.
I thought that would have been great because she does come across as very menacing. She has a thing about her I really dug, but I think it works better as a bad guy, not a good guy. I don't think they should have made her a good guy. I think that was a mistake.
I think they should have made her an anti-hero, which is, she ends up doing the right thing for the wrong reasons. I think she should have destroyed Kingpin, but then at the end avoided actually killing him.
Of course.
Because she could have, because obviously they need him around, right? But she could have done the whole thing where she basically, she's in a position to kill him, and for one reason or another she doesn't. And
I wanted her to become the new Kingpin of New York. I think that would have been better.
They don't. Well, obviously, did you see that there was a post-trailer scene?
Of course.
They want to follow the comic line, which is
But he gives up being the Kingpin of crime, become the mayor of New York. That's the whole point.
So maybe that's the way they're going to go, because she did some sort of glowy stuff on him.
No,
the point is, it wasn't really clear whether she'd kind of healed him in the way she'd healed herself, which is to remove the pain.
I thought it was kind of clear that
or not.
He was not healed, and he did not want that. And that
exactly, but
it freaked him out, and it's going to push him even more towards being a no. That's
of what's the point then? What's the point of doing that if he then is resistant to it? It just doesn't. To me, as I said, it was incoherent.
Yeah, the last episode needed a lot more work than what we got.
Yeah, I probably needed.
All in all, I think it was fantastic. I really liked it.
But up until that point, I thought it'd been a great show.
Yep.
The only thing I don't like is they de-emphasized her power. In the first episode, one of the flashbacks, you see her looking at people and understanding how they fight.
Yep.
But then they just drop that, and she's just a badass.
Yeah.
And then it looks like they're leaning towards the Echo being the glowy powers, and I don't see. I know they have another character, Taskmaster, who has the same ability, but I don't think they ever really showed that off that well either. I tell you what, I'm reminded. Have you ever seen the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes films?
Yep.
Yeah. So I know you remember in those ones that they have this great sequence at the beginning where he's prize fighting, and they kind of using voiceover and slow motion. They show how somebody who's incredibly intelligent and observational could use that to his advantage in a fight. And it was a really great scene because you think, oh yeah, how can Sherlock Holmes be fighting these big guys? And yet they show how he's able to beat them. Yeah. Because he's doing calculations and he's anticipating things and he's seeing things that they don't even know they're doing. And I feel like really that's what Echo needed, is they needed a way of showing the fact that actually she's capable of seeing what people are doing and adapting to it in a way that makes her special, rather than her just being the pure badass because she overcomes all this adversity, which, don't get me wrong, I think is an amazing, the way they portray her is really quite inspirational as somebody who's not held back by any of these apparent disabilities.
Oh,
and not only that, one of the reasons they could do that is the actress who plays her is both deaf and an amputee. There is no CGI involved with that fake leg.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she is a real amputee, and they basically adapted her action scenes to reflect the additional capabilities that gives you if you have a leg, for instance, that doesn't feel pain, and that you can pivot off in a way that you might not be able to pivot off a real leg because of bones and ankles and things like that. And yeah, I think so. That's what I mean. she is an amazing actress because before Hawkeye, she'd never acted before. This was her first major role.
I think she was fantastic.
And now she's carried a whole series. And whatever you think about the story itself, you can't fault her performance. It's flawless
she was great
throughout.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will say this: where does the character go? And I don't think it goes anywhere. She doesn't belong in the Avengers, obviously.
The Young Avengers, maybe? I don't know.
The Defenders, maybe but I don't know.
But the point is, we don't know at this point what Marvel are planning to do with all these.
Oh, that's the point, though. I mean, that's kind of the point. Where does this character go? I don't see a path forward for the character, to be honest.
The problem is
they didn't leave anything open.
In this show, yes, she went through a full arc, a redemption arc that was based on her background, and I think actually they did a really good job of sticking to that and showing all of that.
But they also made it clear that she belongs and she really should be in her hometown there. So where does that leave her with the rest of the MCU?
Well, yeah, you're meant to think at the end, by the way, she's still got the motorbike and everything like that. She's on her way off somewhere else. So what exactly? Where would she go? What would she do?
Exactly.
It
would have made more sense, like I said earlier, that she became the Queenpin, that she became the bad guy.
Perhaps part of the reshoot strategy was to close off her story, so we're never going to see her again.
Well, and that would be a shame.
It would be a shame, but that could be what they've done. I don't know.
I put this in the show notes a while ago, and we never talked about it, and I want to finally come back to this. You've seen The Boys.
I have seen The Boys, yes.
I've read the comics as well.
And me too.
I put this question, is Homelander the best villain in modern comic shows / movies? I would say yes, even over Thanos. I think the Homelander is just a brilliant character.
They've played with this in the DC universe a bit. Obviously, the Flash movie kind of toyed with this a little bit, and certainly the Superman and Lois TV series they do on the CW has fully embraced the idea of what do you do on a world where Superman is evil, right? Because they have John Irons, who's come from that universe. So the most terrifying thing, and one of the subcurrents in any modern treatment of Superman is can you trust him to do the right thing? Is he really the Boy Scout he claims to be? Because if he wasn't, he's virtually unstoppable. And effectively, that's what The Boys does. It says if you have a character who is Superman, because Homelander is basically Superman.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's evil, or even worse than being evil, he's mentally unstable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think he's evil. I think that he is a sociopath.
He's messed up. Yeah, he's messed up. He's messed up by the fact he was created and the way he was brought up and the way he's been exploited, and he has no moral compass. And he's a nutcase.
Yeah,
who flits from idea to idea.
And what's more scary than a truly psychopathic? Yeah. I mean, just a Superman.
A psychopathic Superman.
There's no moral compass at all.
No. And he's unstoppable. I'll tell you where else they played with this is with Invincible, because obviously,
yes and no.
He's meant to be a Superman-like character, and he's also not on the straight and narrow. The father.
Well, I don't know if you read the comics or in Invincible or not.
I haven't read the Invincible comics.
All right,
I've only seen the TV show.
It's even better than the TV show.
Right. Okay.
Who the father is when he comes to the planet, that's who he actually becomes. And things kind of work out for the dad, if you will. And for the mom, if they follow, and they pretty much have so far.
But if you've watched the first episode of the TV show, basically Superman murders the rest of the Justice League.
Yes.
So, I mean, again, it's a similar sort of idea.
But not because he's evil or anything, though. He's doing it for duty, for his home planet. That he's there to prepare the Earth to...
Prepare the Earth for conquering.
Yeah.
To be conquered, yeah. Okay, that makes it all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's different than truly psychopathic because...
I admit he's not a psychopath. He's just a murderer. But
But he thinks the Voltramite Empire is better for the Earth long term. It gets rid of all of our conflict, no more hunger, no more disease. He really does think that this is going to be better for the Earth.
Yeah, it's always disturbing when somebody thinks the best way of solving peace is start killing people.
Well,
but there you go.
He had to kill them so he could lay the groundwork for the invasion eventually.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I think that the Homelander, in my opinion, is one of the best characters we've ever got.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, the way he's played on the TV show.
He's more scary on the TV show than he is in the comics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. The guy who plays him is terrifying as Homelander.
Yeah.
Because he's got that whole, the marbles are all rolling around up here and anything could happen.
And you could see it in his eyes. He plays it so well. He's sitting there smiling. And wow, he's so good in the role.
He is. So it really is. I think it's what's made that show, because a lot of the rest of the show has departed so much from the comics that it's lost some of what made the comics so great.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Because in the comics, the boys all take Compound V as well, so they can fight toe to toe with the superheroes, which gives their band a different dynamic. Because in the TV show, they're always underdogs who are on the verge of defeat.
Yep.
So it's a completely different dynamic. I mean, in
the comic books, their whole thing is to go kill these people that are just super-powered animals. They don't live by norms.
And also as well, the real villain in the comics is Billy Butcher, because he's the one who's a little bit unhinged.
Yes.
Yeah. And not only that as well, in the comics, his arrogance and his, the fact that he doesn't care about anything is derived from what he's been doing.
Yes.
Whereas Carl Urban, much as I love him, and I do love him in The Boys, I love his Billy Butcher, but it's a very different character. Because
100%.
With him, it's all bravado.
Yep.
And he's trying to bluff his way through it.
Yeah, but he's still showing his heart, and it's like, nah.
Exactly.
Billy Butcher doesn't have the heart that.
Billy Butcher is another sociopath in the comic book.
Yes,
he really is.
Yeah, So let's jump into our bracket, because I think we both agree Homelander is the best. He's just awesome. I'm looking forward to season, I think 4 or 3 or whatever it is. So we went through our entire first round and we picked our first group of winners. I think for the most part, we were pretty much, I think we had one coin flip. But other than that, we were pretty much lockstep on, all the stuff that we picked. Now it gets a little harder because these are all the teams or movies, if you will, that already won once. So we already know some of the strengths as well as the weaknesses. And so the first one we've got is Captain America, the Winter Soldier against the original Deadpool. Both of these are really good movies for totally different reasons.
Yep.
Deadpool started it. This is the first Deadpool. This is where, look, we've got one MCU release coming out this year, and it's Deadpool 3, and everybody's dying for it. If there was a Captain America movie coming out this year, would we be looking forward to it the way we are Deadpool? I would say no.
No, but he's had a lot more screen time.
A lot more. That's true as well.
A lot more screen time, yeah.
But, one's an espionage movie. Really, that's what The Winter Soldier is. It's an espionage story. Yeah. And it's done in kind of a 1970s vibe, the whole thing. It feels like it could have been... If you'd taken out Captain America as who he is as a superhero, and you did this type of movie back, it was a Russian agent and a U.S. agent.
Yeah.
It would have worked.
Thriller.
Yeah. It totally, not espionage, a spy thriller. Thank you.
Spy thriller, yeah.
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 But I still think The Winter Soldier is one of the best comic book movies of all time.
I'd be inclined to agree, and I think I would lean towards The Winter Soldier over Deadpool, just because The Winter Soldier basically, Captain America generally, but the start that movie and the things that are put in train in that movie kind of underpins the whole of the Thanos saga. They couldn't really have done Infinity War and Endgame without Captain America's participation. And really, The Winter Soldier is where they first took the character from. Really after the don't get me wrong, he was great in the Avengers, but this was the one where they basically said, this guy can carry all different types of movies, and this guy is a an avatar for the whole of the Avengers.
Yes.
Whenever he's on screen.
He's a fully fleshed out character when he comes into this. We think we know who Captain America is, but this solidifies that. He is Captain America. And I think Chris Evans in this role is so good. I mean...
So, exactly. And also all the supporting in this. I mean, this...
Fantastic. Well, let's be honest. This is probably the Black Widow's best outing.
I think so. And let's face it, it's called Captain America. This is the first time they started doing, every movie is an Avengers movie.
Right. Well, we get the Falcon in here. And the whole On Your Left was so good. You totally believe these two characters just met and they become great friends immediately because they see a lot of each other in each other.
Yeah.
And yet...
And also you see the story that the Winter Soldier's going on.
Yep.
You see how he's also been manipulated.
Yep.
And he's going on the anti-hero redemption arc, but they do it over a whole load of movies.
Yep.
And let's not forget, this was directed by the Russo brothers, who then went on to do Infinity War and Endgame, which are probably,
Well, let's not forget the bad guy, if you want to call it that, in this movie is Iron Man. Yeah. Because you're kind of rooting for Iron Man to lose.
No, hang on. No, well, you're talking about Civil War.
Oh,
this is
Civil
Winter
War.
Soldier.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the bad guy in this one is Robert Redford.
Yeah, that's right.
I jumped
ahead.
Much as I loved Deadpool, and Deadpool is a fantastic movie.
It's fantastic.
I'd have to. Deadpool reinvented a whole genre.
Yes.
Which I think people had thought would never come back, which is the humorous R-rated action movie.
Yes.
They really kind of brought it back in a way with a character that, let's face it, not the world's most popular character.
No,
but almost
the perfect actor for the role.
Exactly. I was going to say the character who really Ryan Reynolds is
Deadpool. 100%.
That's why it works, because he's got that same kind of I don't give a toss mentality. Always willing to play up the fool and play the Joker, and throwing that and leaning into that in a movie that actually the story's, if you took the story beats away from that, it's really kind of sad.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a horrible, this is a guy who's dying of cancer and then gets screwed over by somebody because he's dying of cancer.
Yep.
Yeah. And loses the love of his life at the same time because of that. It's an appalling story, and yet they made it really, really funny.
Yep.
And they because it's Deadpool, they also take the mickey out of the whole superhero genre and the way superhero films are made, and all of that. Even things like oh yeah, here's the X-Men mansion. Where's everyone else? Oh, I guess they're not licensable. We didn't
have the budget for them.
We didn't have the budget for the decent characters. It's all great stuff, and I do love it, and I love Deadpool 2, and I know I'm going to love Deadpool 3. But I think I think we're talking about
two different types of movies.
Something that's good against something that's really leads the genre.
Yep. The next one, so Captain America: The Winter Soldier moves on.
Yeah.
Will he face Captain America? Because Captain America, the first one, the first Avenger, against 1989's Batman. Two totally different movies, but they do have some similarities. They're both origin stories.
Yeah.
I think obviously the Captain America origin story is, I hate to say more realistic, but it feels more grounded than the weird world that Tim Burton built for this Batman movie. But that being said, we cannot overstate how important that Batman movie is. I mean, if you go back to 1989 and 90, everything had a Batman symbol on it. Everything.
Oh yeah.
The music, the movie, that it was everywhere.
I don't think it was just that though. I mean, obviously yes, it was very, very heavily marketed because they knew they had a great movie. But I think if you go back and look at superhero movies in general, you'd had Superman in 1979, and then a bunch of tepid sequels.
Yep.
Yeah, I think when Batman came out in 1989, at that time Batman was kind of a joke.
Yes.
Because he'd done his own things in the comic, and they'd had the animated series and all of that. But really, most people who remembered Batman at the time remembered the 1960s TV show,
or Super Friends, which was just as bad.
Yeah. Which Batman was it was a little bit passé, really.
Yes.
And by really embracing the best of the darkness of the comics. And really, the beauty, I think, of Tim Burton's Batman is he really balances the light and dark of, you've got this really brooding, serious character who's kind of a bit messed up in the head, and then you've got Jack Nicholson as the Joker, who's also crazy, but completely the other end of the spectrum. In terms, it really is a balance of light and dark. It is. It really just gels together into something. I think the third act of Batman is the worst part of the movie.
I agree.
The whole
up until the Joker shoots Bruce Wayne. After that point, it goes downhill. But up until that point, it's just great.
And really, that final thing with the floats running down the main street, and then him and the bat plane trying to catch the balloons, and the Joker shooting him down with an absurdly long gun. It all gets a little bit stupid at that point.
Well, to be fair, we get a little bit of that in the first Captain America movie when he takes the plane into the ocean. It's like, why? What are you doing? You don't have to do that.
Yeah, I know, but it's obviously stylistically, I think Tim Burton thought that it should be a little bit over the top in the final act of the first Batman movie, and I think unfortunately that kind of sowed the seeds of that universe's destruction.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the problem is every movie after that they kind of kept amping that up.
Yeah, they leaned into that too hard.
Yeah, until by the end of it, by the George Clooney time, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, we get bat nipples. But that's bad.
Yeah, but I still think Batman basically revitalized the genre.
But is that what makes it a better movie than Captain America 1 or not? Because think about the some of the scenes in the first Captain America movie. Here's a skinny kid not doing well in the calisthenics and stuff. They throw a fake grenade and he's the one that jumps on it.
Yeah.
The love affair that he falls in love with Peggy, you totally get it. And that continues through all of the movies going forward and coming together in Endgame.
Yeah, much as the same pluses we mentioned about Winter Soldier here, Captain Evans. Let's just call him Captain Evans. Chris Evans he really understands this character. He gets how he wants to play him, and it's there from the beginning. And a character who you would think could be really, really cheesy, he kind of lands exactly in the right place in terms of, no, this guy's a hero.
And the CGI that they do to make skinny Chris Evans is so realistic.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it's really, really good. And the idea that he's the only one, there'll never be another one like him, and he realizes that, and yet he still, wants to play his part and do the thing he was created for. And let's face it, fighting Nazis is always the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
They really do pull it off. And the beautiful thing I think about the first Avenger is that apart from the credit scene where he's woken up after he's frozen, that could be a standalone movie,
100%.
And it will be almost a perfect superhero movie.
Yeah.
So it's really,
if they're both on the TV right now, and those are the only two channels you can get. One's got the original Batman 1989 on it, and one's the first Avenger, Captain America. Which one are you sticking with? I'm kind of with Captain America, to be honest.
I think certainly on that test I'd be more inclined to go with Batman, just because I've seen it far less.
Yep.
Because Batman came out in a time when you didn't get to see movies again as often as you do nowadays. So I've probably watched it less. I do have to remember as well Michael Keaton's performance as Batman in the last Flash movie, where he's reprising that character.
It's really good.
It was so good.
It's the only thing that I actually, because I rewatched the Flash movie because it came out on HBO Max. I rewatched it, and it's better than I remember, but some parts are even worse, like the whole baby scene at the beginning. Just terrible.
Well, yeah. We should probably do a show where we talk about that movie and some of the others that come out this year.
We will.
But
it'll probably be in the next bracket thing.
I think I've got a coin flip this one. I can't choose between them.
Okay, so I've already flipped the coin. I know what the result is. Which one are you going with? Heads is Captain America. Tails is. Oh no! Wait, no, never mind. That's not how it is. You pick heads.
Kind of ruins it then, doesn't it?
Yeah. So let me flip it again. So you went with Batman. I went with Captain America. It's been flipped.
And I'm saying heads.
Batman wins. So Batman 1989. I disagree, but it is what it is. So
it's a democracy.
It's not going to win the next one. I could tell you that.
Well, the other thing I would say is if we go with Captain America, then we have one Captain America moving up against another, and to me that doesn't seem right.
I don't know. I think that's kind of good because that's what we've got right now. X-Men First Class against the original X-Men movie in 2000.
So this is easy for me because I think I said before I did not like the first X-Men movie very much.
I did. I really dug it when it first came out. I was not happy that they leaned into the whole Matrix look with all the leather and stuff like that. That they were too scared to do the costumes. Yeah. And I get it because it was 2000, you know.
Deadpool 3 will fix that this year.
Well, they will. We know that for a fact. But look, Logan is not on this list. And I think Logan's one of the best comic book movies of all time. It's just brilliant from start to finish. And you don't get that movie without this first X-Men. Let's be honest, this first X-Men, they didn't do a great job on some of the casting. Haley Berry was terrible as Storm.
I'd say most of the casting, to be fair.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart, though, is...
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, and Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman are the two standouts.
Yes.
Oh, and Sarah McKellen, obviously, as McNeese.
Of course. Yeah, see, think about, was this the one that we see him in the camp at the beginning?
At the beginning, yeah.
Yes, that is one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, I think maybe...
See, it's better than you think, but then you get the saber tooth leaping, which is like...
but those things aside, I dislike an awful lot of the rest of the movie.
The bar scene where Rogue... See, I thought Rogue did a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, she was okay, but I don't think they made the best of the character.
I agree.
Because she was much better in the comics than what they did with her in the movies.
I would think the opposite, honestly. I've never cared for her in the comics.
I wanted to... if you follow her arc through all the movies, she wants to get rid of her power. She wants to get rid of her power so she can kiss boys.
Yes.
Right? And in the comic books, she goes and steals somebody's powers, kills them, and then basically owns it. Now, to me, that's a far more interesting.
Yeah, she started as a villain. She killed Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. She got Captain Marvel's powers. That's how she's all powerful. Carol Danvers comes back, obviously, but
obviously, because nobody ever dies.
No, well, Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben's. The next time he turns up at sales, he's going to be really pissed.
Yes.
It's like, they brought everyone back and they won't break. You know, I even came up with a great tagline and they never brought me back.
So, I don't know. There's so many things I like about X-Men, but First Class...
First Class, first of all, First Class was First Class because it took what was effectively at that point, because of the excesses of the mainstream movies, it took what was a moribund franchise and it revitalized it by going, well, let's do a prequel. What were these characters like when they were young? And how did they become who they became?
Well, but they didn't really, because some of the characters... none of the X-Men make the transition over.
No, but it kind of sets up the whole idea of
it's in the 60s.
Well, not only that, this is basically, despite the fact that it has a kick-ass villain in Kevin Bacon, this is basically the Professor X versus Magneto show.
Yes, and it's brilliant.
This is about, how did they come to be on different sides of the same fight?
Yeah.
And it really, really pulls it off. They also, let's face it, they rebooted Mystique in a way that made her far more interesting than she was in the main X-Men movies. X-Men First Class really was first class.
I agree. I've said for years that this is the best X-Men movie.
Yeah, and it was directed by Matthew Vaughn, who went on to do Kingsman and Kick-Ass and stuff.
The first two Kingsmen are great. The last one is terrible.
Yeah, no, but I don't think he directed the last one. I think he handed it over to somebody else.
I think so too.
But and it was written by Jane Goldman, who is the wife of a British TV host here, and she knows great stories and also comic books inside out. And so does Matthew Vaughn. That's one of the reasons why First Class is so great.
So I think we're both on the same page. First Class is moving ahead.
But the flip side of that is X-Men gave us Sir Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, and Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
So it's really tough.
I know.
Because you'd almost say, whether you like those first X-Men movies or not, First Class wouldn't have been made if it hadn't been for them. And all of those characters have reprised those roles time and time again over the years, successfully, even if the movies are in a bit bad.
Are you which character in First Class would you be excited to see in Deadpool? I would suggest probably none of them. You'd rather see the same characters that the X-Men made.
Yeah, I enjoyed Fassbender's take on Magneto in First Class. James McAvoy I didn't really dig it for Professor X.
No, I didn't believe him that he becomes Patrick Stewart.
No.
He didn't have the gravitas that Stewart has.
He was very good as a young Professor X.
Yes.
As Charles Xavier, but you don't believe he will become the sage, powerful mutant in the wheelchair.
I think that as movies go, I think First Class is a better movie, but for what we're doing, I think that maybe X-Men is a better, because it started much.
I think
we wouldn't have the MCU without the X-Men. We just wouldn't.
No, I think I'm coming down. Even though I don't like the movie itself, I'm coming down towards X-Men rather than First Class. I think First Class is like you say, is a great standalone movie. I also don't like much what they did afterwards.
I don't either.
The second one was okay. The third one was awful. The fourth one I've not even seen.
I don't even remember the third and fourth one at this point.
The third one is Apocalypse, and then the fourth one is
no, that was
the Phoenix.
That wasn't First Class X-Men. That was the original.
Yeah,
X-Men.
It was the First Class X-Men. They did First Class, and then they did the Sentinel movie. That was the next one.
Yeah,
and then
the Phoenix is not. No, that's the X-Men. That's the regular X-Men.
No, they did. It's so bad and you've not seen it. You don't know. They redid. We're using the First Class characters.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That one I've not even seen because I heard it was so terrible.
So we're going X-Men 2000.
X-Men 2000.
Wow, upset.
Yeah,
we talked ourselves into it because just by looking at the two together, I would have went with First Class.
Yeah,
because I think it's a better movie, but taking everything into consideration, how long these characters have been played by the same actors, because look, that's 24 years ago, man. Yeah. And we're still talking about Hugh Jackman in the role. We're not talking about anybody in First Class in the role still.
No.
We're just not.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, Xavier is a totally different character than Picard.
Absolutely.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Our last one, neither one of these will get to the final. We've got the 1998 Blade against the 2018 Venom. Now, remember, Venom beat Judge Dredd, which wasn't very difficult, and Blade beat League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is it's sad that we even used them, but here you go.
So, I think Venom on this one, just because I enjoy the movie more.
I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen Blade, and it was more of a vampire movie than it was a comic book movie, but the character was 100% from the comics. I don't know. It's a much more serious movie.
Yeah.
And Wesley Snipes acts his butt off in this movie. But I heard some of the things that he was doing behind the scenes, which made me go, ugh, especially in the later ones. He didn't want nobody to talk to him, and he was just a dick. And I love Tom Hardy.
Yeah, I think Venom is a movie that's as I think we've said before, is very much raised by the performance of its lead actor.
Yeah.
In that, if they'd have put, generic pretty boy in there,
wouldn't have worked.
As they could well have done.
Yep.
Let's be a little bit mean here. Who's the guy who plays Cyclops in X-Men 2000?
Marstein, something like that. Yeah, he'd been terrible.
Marstein, no.
Yeah.
James somebody.
Yeah. I'm thinking of.
You know the guy.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he was in Superman Returns as Lois Lane's husband.
Yep.
And he was in Westworld and stuff like that, right? I really hated him as Cyclops. I really hated him as Cyclops.
No, I'm right. James Mards. I can't think of how it.
No, he's not James Margold. That's the director of Logan. James Marsden.
Yes.
Marsden, that's right. Yes.
Yes.
Marsden.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway.
He was also in Sonic.
He was in Sonic, and actually, Sonic, I think, is his best work. I think he's much better.
No, the prince, the one where he's the prince and he comes in forward in time or something, or he becomes real or something. I don't even remember what the movie was, but
Enchanted.
Yes, he was really good in that.
Oh, right. Yeah, but again, I think he's much better suited to comic stuff.
I agree.
Than he is to the serious stuff.
Yeah.
And
Venom has some comic stuff in it, but it's very dark humor.
But James, he's a bit too old for the role now.
Yes.
But James Marsden is the sort of person, that sort of actor is the sort of person I would have, when you told me beforehand they were making Venom, that I would have imagined they would have cast. And I think it would have fluffed it.
Yeah.
Completely fluffed it. Whereas Tom Hardy, who's an Oscar-winning actor, has he won an Oscar? If he's not, he should have done. Anyway,
he's
an amazing actor.
He's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. He knocks it out of the park in pretty much everything he does.
And if they turn Venom dark, who's better than him to turn that character dark?
Yeah. But also, I think it was a stupid movie.
Yes.
Made by a stupid studio. And he 100% commits to it.
Yeah. He carries the entire movie.
Which is what makes it, because if you've got an actor who's committed to it, then you really believe the incredibly stupid idea that this alien symbiote takes you over, and you can have conversations with it, and you can talk it out of killing people, and all of that, And I also love with Venom the fact that that rather than it being a secret, everyone who knows him knows he's Venom.
Yes. Everybody.
No. And it doesn't matter, because everybody kind of goes, Venom and him and Eddie, they're all right together.
Yep.
And so people are kind of cool with it and aren't going to go and dob him into the authorities and all of that. And they recognise that, So here's the thing with Venom, he plays him as a character who is morally ambiguous. He's a good guy who's made some bad mistakes and keeps making bad mistakes, and he's trying to be just every day just a little bit better than he was the day before.
Yes.
He's not somebody who's gone, I will embrace these powers and use them for good.
No, he's a loser even after he gets the powers.
He's a loser. Even after he gets the powers, he's a loser, and even the symbiote thinks he's a loser.
Because he is.
And yet, but sticks with him. And I think that the way that's brought across is really, even though it's a movie about an alien symbiote, it kind of grounds it.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons that I truly love Venom, and even the sequel, which wasn't as good. So we're going
really
Venom.
Enjoy
them. I certainly get a lot more out of that movie than I get out of Blade.
I agree.
As great as the performance is, and I do agree with you. He really is Blade.
Wasn't Ryan Reynolds in that, or did Ryan Reynolds come in at the second movie?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So that's our bracket set for the next episode. It's Captain America: The Winter Soldier against 1989's Batman, and it's the 2000 X-Men against 2018's Venom. Yeah. I think I know who's going to win the first one. I'm not sure about X-Men and Venom. That's a strong one, but I kind of think
something you've just said though. Deadpool 4.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Blade.
There you go.
That's
match made in heaven.
That's the movie. That's the movie we need to have made.
Yep. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Geeks Pub. We'd love it if you gave us feedback. It's feedback at geekspubpodcast.com. But really, we post stuff under Tech Fan. If you go to Facebook, we're under Tech Fan Podcast.
Because that's not confusing at all.
I've already pretty much killed everything but the MyMac thing and X, formerly known as Twitter, but it's always going to be Twitter. I don't care what Elon Musk says. Send us some feedback. Do you agree with our picks or not? David, we'll be back next week or the week after, depending on how your schedule goes. For Tech Fan, we've got a lot to talk about. The Vision Pro is coming. Apple just released this stupid video that some people seem to really like about how they make it, and I watched it and I was like, this is stupid. Why does anybody care?
What I don't understand is I've not heard from Apple PR about my reviewing it yet.
Yeah, no. It's weird, isn't it? So we're going to talk about that next week. There's a lot of stuff going on in tech that's going to be fun to discuss, and I will talk to you then, David.
Talk to you then. Bye.